right, thank you very much, Melissa. As you just heard, I'm Sandy Wool, and I'm with the Bureau of Library Development, and I'm responsible for administration and adult literacy. And so this PR sort of comes under the umbrella of administration. And welcome to our first try at a new kind of format for providing continuing education to you. Many of you I know, have actually watched the recordings that went out earlier. This is really a three-part opportunity for continuing education. It includes the recordings that you got earlier, 3 up to 10 minutes recordings this week, and that'll happen next week and the week after, week 3. Then this is really a discussion. It's not you sit and listen. It is you participate, you ask questions, you contribute. For those of you who have a microphone, we do want you to speak. It just makes these sessions much more interesting whenever we hear voices along with typing with chat. But of course, you can put comments and put items into chat. And so that's the game plan for today. We have one more element that for the lucky ones, some of you are getting technical assistance from Lawrence related to marketing. So that's where the 3 parts actually comes in. And we know we have all levels of knowledge and skill on board this morning from some of you who are actually full-time public relations people, full-time marketing people, maybe sort of new to it, but also maybe some of you that have, deep experience, and we want you to share. And then we know that some of you are from smaller libraries, and maybe marketing and PR is like your 14th or 15th hat that you're actually wearing. So as you saw in our announcement, this is aimed at libraries with no marketing staff, or to those of you who are sort of new to marketing. So we start our building from the basics up to the final elements here. So this is actually a 3-week course. The first is marketing mindset. The next week it's how to reach your audience. And I know some of you put in there, how do I reach the underserved whenever you actually did your registration. And then week 3 is continuous marketing and ambassadorships. And we do have a resource list that I will be sending out to you this afternoon, which Lawrence has put together, which has a lot of good places to go in the sense of learning more. And we decided this time around that we have a few ground rules. If we were doing this face-to-face, I would have this written up on a flip chart, but instead you see it in your agenda. We want you to be part of the discussion. Do raise your hand whenever you want to contribute or have a question, and then be prepared to talk if you do have a microphone or are calling in by phone. We're 23 now, people who have come. We actually have almost 50 people who are registered, so we know we've got a larger group, and so we're sort of going to balance out the giving others a chance to talk. And we really do want you to focus on this week's topics. We know, again, from whenever you registered, you have lots of things you want to know from the beginning to the end of the whole area of marketing, and it's certainly a huge field. But this time around, we want to talk about basic concepts, planning, and communicative culture. And after the session, we want you to discuss what you learned with your colleagues and how it applies to your library, because we hope all of you are joining us next week and you can give your 2 cents there. When you speak, give your full name, and when you speak the first time, give your full name. When speaking a second time, give your first name. So moving on down, I want you to, in chat, go ahead and tell us who you are. Give your name, your library, your town, and role in public relations. While you are doing that, I am going to give the floor over to our virtual room, over to Lawrence Webster, who'll tell a little bit more about her and setting the stage. So Lawrence, welcome to Florida.
Oh, thank you. And what a treat to be back in Florida, so to speak. For those of you who know nothing about me, I might start by saying I am, as you might have gathered just from the first 3 little videos, a library evangelist in the sense that I really believe that our public libraries are absolutely unique and are one of the cornerstones in our culture and society and as a nation. They're incredibly important to our communities, our people, and the whole country. So I think we're doing important work. And I have spent upwards of 3 decades now working with libraries and library agencies at the state level and individually to help tell their stories. And when I started out, this was called PR, and librarians didn't use the term marketing. And then it became communications. And then for a while it was advancement. And then it was community relations. And now the entire thing is under the umbrella of marketing. So the terminology changes, but I think that the basic concepts actually don't. Now, I know a lot of you are very, very interested in some highly specific things about marketing activities. What's the best way to use this or that social medium, or what's the best way to design a website for marketing. And we will get to that. We will certainly touch on that. And I'm going to point you to lots of good research out there and information out there that's available to you readily if you want to delve into any particular area. But I really did want to start, as you might have gathered, this course with stepping back quite a lot and thinking about what marketing means to you, literally, and what your internal library culture is like and in what ways it needs to support the marketing effort. As you can gather, I actually believe that every single interaction with a customer is where your marketing starts. And you can do any amount of high-level, brilliant, expensive combination of branding and advertising and careful positioning and all those sort of jargon words. You can do all of that you want, and it will not be successful unless the individual connections that people make to the library are pleasant, memorable, important experiences. So if you call that a bias, maybe, but I really did want everyone to start thinking along these lines. Does anyone have any questions at this point about me or where we're going in general? What I'd like to do is kind of discuss some of these larger cultural issues today. And maybe start with, hey, what do you think about marketing? What's marketing mean to you? What do you see if you had better marketing?
And this is Melissa. Raise your hand if you've been muted. If you'd like to speak out loud, let us know. You can type into chat. We would love to hear from you.
I'm reading down a list of, I'm reading about you now that I've stopped talking about myself. I see we have at least one other library evangelist here. Hi, Suvi.
And Jean, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes. As far as marketing is concerned, what do I see? What do I think it is? For me, it's how do you reach people, especially the typical non-users, on how you let them know about a service that you have? It almost seems to me sometimes that only the users really know your service when you really want to reach the non-users. So I guess how do you reach the non-users is one of the things I would like to know.
So in your eye, great marketing would be learning how to communicate with people who apparently haven't been able to hear you yet, in a sense.
Correct.
So it might be learning, maybe learning another language or another dialect, in not literally, but figuratively.
Agreed.
All right. Thanks, Jean. And hi, Jean. I confess, I worked in Florida for so many years. I was a colleague of Sandy's, and some of the veteran Florida librarians I remember very well and very fondly, so it's nice to be back.
Well, Lawrence, it's always nice to hear the word veteran instead of old, so thank you very much.
Oh, goodness.
And Renee, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
When we were really talking, and I talked to staff as well, but what I see in my mind's eye about great marketing is I remember something that came out of the Sunshine State Library Leadership Institute was a TED Talk by Simon Sinek where he talks about the golden circle and how Apple is so much more successful selling their product because they look at the why do you do it before they look at the what you sell.
Right, and oh, that's very astute, and we will get into that a little later in the course. I call it market benefits, not inventory, but essentially it's the same thing. Really put yourself in the other person's shoes. Anyone else? Okay, let me ask you this. Did you get any sense in on your staff or in your own mind or in your past of a negative feeling about marketing?
This is Renee again. When I talked to my staff, one person had a positive thing as it being you can reach out to someone. One person thought that it could be annoying, and then another person was like it could be boring. So they were pretty honest with me on that.
I wonder what they meant by annoying or boring, actually.
I don't know, but I'm going to explore it now that they've said something. I'm like, okay. They weren't talking about our marketing.
Right, that's what I was thinking about, all those ads, you know, advertising insurance and cars and all of that sort of hammers in, and that's maybe what people think of when they hear the word marketing or PR. And I should have said...
do you think that your staffs, I'm sort of a general question, and I know all of your libraries are very different from one another, have a sense that everything they do is that customer service is really, really important? In other words, have you addressed that in your organization to create a friendly environment for really great customer service?
And Pam, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, I brought that up with the staff yesterday, and staff meaning 3 of us, and they didn't have a totally negative concept for the word marketing, but it wasn't totally positive either. It's like we just weren't sure that they liked that word. And you know, we talked about what it meant and what I had learned on the slides yesterday, but they weren't positive about it. They were just indifferent, I guess. So marketing is not, it's not a word they would use, I guess.
And sometimes it's I think sometimes people feel that it's somehow undignified for libraries to call it marketing.
Yes.
Community relations or education would be fine, or advocacy. But to call it marketing feels too corporate. You have that? Does anybody else have that sense? I'm also reading. This is an interesting, to talk and read at the same time, reading what some of you have had to say.
Erin, it looks like...
Elizabeth says, one person said, are we going to do commercials? And that's what I was aiming at, that there are people who feel that that's what marketing is, as opposed to them interacting with customers in a very, very positive way.
And Erin's got her hand up. Go ahead, Erin.
I was just going to say that I'm relatively new here. I've been here 6 months, and the feeling that I get is not necessarily a negative feeling about marketing, but that it doesn't fit quite with the mission or role of the library. So certain things we've suggested or tried to do, the response has been resistance because it takes people out of their typical roles. Like, that's not what we do. It's not my job to market, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. Do you have an example of that?
Well, we have a really fantastic multimedia center in our main branch, and at one point, to get people in the door, we suggested we need to get them in the door first before we can expect them to sign up for classes. So we have a photo studio we can offer, like entrepreneurs and people coming out of business schools, we'll do a headshot event where we can have you come in and get a professional headshot, and we can use that opportunity to talk to them about what we offer, but we'd have to use our photographers to do the headshots, our photography instructors, and the photography instructors kind of felt like that cheapens them a little bit because they're teachers. They're not there to take photos or serve the public. So it's a little bit of a conflict about mission.
And your photographers are volunteers or staff members?
They're staff. They're photography instructors, so there's 2 of them, and they teach all of our photo studio classes.
Now, I think that's a very interesting problem, and I can see, I see where that comes from on both sides. It's a great idea, by the way. I like that, the headshot service.
Thanks.
Yeah, brilliant, really. May I share that with others as I travel along consulting?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Thanks. But I think, how might you have brought those photography teachers on board with the idea?
So I'm thinking.
Would it have helped you think if you had said, hey, we've got this idea about providing headshots to these people, and it's a marketing, it's a community relations effort to increase awareness. What do you think? What's a good approach to this? Would that have maybe encouraged one or 2 of them to say, oh, well, I'll take those pictures. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe when we pitched it, I was still fairly new and maybe untrusted because I didn't know what I was.
Oh, yeah. You sound very wise.
I mean, maybe if we had given them an opportunity to teach as well as take photos, it would have felt like they were satisfying what they do as well as what we wanted them to do. But maybe.
Yeah, I know, and I appreciate you can't get all staff to do all things. I mean, nobody wants to do all things, but playing to people's strengths is always a good idea. Okay, well, thanks very much. That's a very interesting idea. And a typical sort of problem, does anyone else have a similar problem where you have a great marketing idea or a outreach awareness idea and staff is resistant? Latrina. Do tell.
I didn't know you could hear me.
I see your name. Oh, I heard Sorry.
Yeah, we just had and I was just listening to the previous caller, and what she was saying, that made me think about something we recently just tried to do in an effort to try to increase circulation and just to, get more people in the door. We decided that we wanted to try this passport idea where we have, normally when someone comes in to sign up for the library card, they get this card, this little brochure after they sign up that says get carded, and it's kind of like after the fact. And so we wanted to kind of create an idea or a strategy around making it fun and getting more people to utilize some of our services. So we came up with this campaign to create a passport kind of idea. And so we created this, we took away that brochure and created this really cool brochure that looks like a passport. And so the objective was to get people to go to use different services and get the passport stamped, and along the way they can get incentives. And so we would have about maybe 16 different things on there, and then they would have to get like 10 stamps to get an incentive. And so we were encouraging them to use certain services. So if you downloaded an ebook or checked out, a referencement to something, just something to increase circulation in different areas. And it was really, a lot of the people were on board, some of the team, but it kind of got shut down. And so we were a little disheartened because we thought it would help to kind of get some excitement about people utilizing the services. And I think that they thought it was going to be a big hindrance on the people at the circulation desk. And I think in hindsight, we probably should have gotten more people on board before we kind of promoted the idea. But so we thought it was creative, and we wanted to give it a shot, but it's kind of been put on the back burner. So I think next time we want to do something more creative like that, we just need to get more people on board on the front end, especially those people who are going to be directly affected by the changes.
That's a yes. The answer to that is you absolutely do. I am reminded of the analogy I made with the family meal of staff in fine restaurants, where where the whole wait staff sits around and has the meal and learns about the food and tastes it and talks about it. And in your case, it might have been interesting to have any staff member actually hold the passport in her hand or his hand and go through the steps and see what it felt like, and that would give all the other places a chance to experiment with it and see that it could be fun. Now, I know how hard it is to have something as formal as a staff meeting, but there might be a way with an idea like that, especially to say, hey, staff member A and staff member B, we've got this idea, we need to try it out. Would you be a pretend customer and be the trial run so we can see how it goes? And that way you'd have a sense of how much time would be taken at the, say, circ desk. I can understand the fear. I've managed a busy circulation desk in the past, and you really don't want one more thing, like taking money for used books or something. It's just, I get that. But again, to try to let the staff taste the menu before any customers do, I guess, and using that analogy again.
It's a great idea.
Anyone else have a suggestion about that?
Suvi, you've got your hand up. Go ahead. And you'll just have to click on the little microphone next to your name so you can talk.
Okay. I wasn't really answering the question. I was just going to make a comment about the changes to library services. You know, when you have a very traditional way of doing library business and people are used to doing things a certain way, and then kind of changing things up, it has to be done very delicately and carefully without scaring the staff too much. But I've changed a lot of things here at this library, and I've been kind of, I talk about my library evangelism and programming all the time, so it's kind of like I'm always reinforcing that concept and getting the staff to start doing things that are those kind of promoting and reaching out to community, and they're engaging in those activities, you know, now, and it's really nice to see that. But not everybody does, but everybody has their different roles. But then I had something else, and now I already forgot because we were talking about so many other things, and I was also chatting. But I'll raise my hand again when it comes back to me.
Can I follow up on that one? Could I ask Suvi just to follow up on that one? That's a common problem where you come in as a new director or a new department head, and there's staff that's been there forever and done things their way, and things are humming along kind of okay, but it's really, libraries are very dynamic at the moment and need to change. And I'm wondering if anyone else has experience with that, particularly in the marketing area. How do you increase your staff's understanding, I think, value on the importance of all community relations activities?
Renee,
was that a question for me or for somebody else?
That was a question. Well, actually, you prompted it, and you could start if you have an answer. What did you do to get it, to bring people on board?
Basically, I just kind of reinforced my goal and belief of what, you know, we are doing in libraries, and kind of like my philosophy. I know what I was going to say. When you mentioned the word advocacy, I always thought, you know, I think of advocacy as this kind of marketing and promoting and creating these relationships and doing outreach, and that kind of like that big concept of getting the good word out about library services and what libraries do, because I think a lot of people have misconceptions about libraries because people don't talk about it enough. And then I went to my first directors meeting of my county, and I realized that people have completely different definitions to advocacy. It's just about big, you know, money. How do we get the most amount of money to fund the libraries? And I was like, wow, I had never like put it so narrowly before, and I kind of understand why we have like, we might be having conversations, but we're not really understanding what the other person is even saying because people have different definitions to different words. So that was kind of amazing to me, but I will let somebody else talk now. Thank you.
Renee,
That's
you've
one
got your
reason
hand
I
up.
wanted
Go
to
ahead.
examine the word marketing. Go ahead.
I was just going to say something as far as like just trying to find buy-in or whatever. When I became a new director 3 years ago, I realized I had like this aha moment, which was like explain everything. And part of that I realized because my staff was watching me copy telephone bills, right? And this seems like a really random thing, and they're like, you know, why in the world is she copying telephone bills? This is stupid. But when I explained that I needed a copy so that I could file E-rate so we could get reimbursed $6,800 a year, they stopped asking why I copied the phone bills. It was a really small thing, but it made a big difference so that they had a better understanding of what I was doing and the reasons why I was doing it. And I think that that helps significantly with buy-in.
That is a brilliant example, Renee. And think about, all of you, think about your own work life and times when you have felt put upon or asked to do something that really seems dumb and it's just extra work, pointless extra work for you. And if there's anybody here who hasn't had that experience, good for you. I think most of us have. And almost always, if the context or reason behind it had been explained, you wouldn't have balked or felt resentful or troubled about it. And that's a tiny example with the phone bills, but it's huge because that's many dollars for your library.
Adenia, go ahead and click on the little icon next to your name so that you can unmute.
Hello. I wanted to say I probably walked into a similar environment as Subi in that it was a very traditional library and it's a single location. And it is still a challenge to change the perspective of the staff. But one thing that I believe has had a wonderful impact for me is, first of all, they saw that I participated in professional associations and classes, and then I suggested classes for them to take, and they began doing so. And even though we did not have funding for them to go to the larger meetings, I took them as a group to our multi-type cooperative conferences. I have taken 6 usually at a time every year, which is very challenging because we are a small location. But it was like a new world of service, and what other libraries are doing opened up, which they weren't aware of before. And I think that has been extremely valuable, and that has actually inspired 2 of the staff members to go to library school who weren't in library school before. And those that have gone, most of them have become engaged. There are some that are still not engaged. It's still just a job, and it's something that I'm working on to this day. It's been 2 years. So, but I understand the challenge, but it really, I think, works for me to have them exposed to what's happening in other locations and what the possibilities are to attract people, how other libraries are performing, how they do their front desk duties, that kind of thing.
Great, that's terrific. And yes, encouraging staff to keep learning, whether you have a budget for formal CE or not, and again, building that culture of camaraderie and knowledge and enthusiasm. The morning meeting announcement that someone posted, Josephine, is a very good example of that, and it's some bookstores. There's a huge independent bookstore near where I live, very successful one, And I visited them because they're so fabulous and they're so successful. And I said, what are some of the things you do? They have a morning meeting. They have 10 minutes every morning where the whole sales staff meets right before opening. And it's a little like a locker room coach chat, very much cheerleading. And one staffer will do a quick rundown on a book they just read. And it by itself, that builds a lot of understanding across the whole store of what other people are doing. So I think often, do any of you have issues with the right hand and the left hand not knowing what the other is doing, circulation and children's services, if you have larger libraries? And again, all of this, that was a general question, but all of this is about building a culture in your library so that your marketing efforts, when you get to them, can be effective.
And Jean, I know you've got your hand up. If you want to go ahead.
I concur, Lawrence. For the past several years, excuse me, for the past several years, I've had morning meetings with the staff for the last 10 to 15 minutes before we open up. And I found that to be invaluable in several different ways. One, from the creating of the marketing culture, because we let each other know what's happening for the day and what's coming up. It keeps us in an ebb and flow of the information so we can share with one another. And what I found also as a side benefit is sometimes I find it to be very therapeutic, because sometimes somebody will say something that will get the rest of us laughing, and it really puts us in a good mood before we even open up the doors. But what we do with those daily meetings is just to keep us involved until we have our general staff meetings. And what I do is a follow-up to reconfirm what was discussed in the morning meetings as far as marketing is concerned, or for that matter, other issues. I would follow up with an email with any kind of attachments or whatever to the entire staff to put a little bit more meat onto what was discussed, maybe quickly in passing. And everybody has an opportunity to say what's going on for the day and what's coming up. So I have found it to be invaluable, and I encourage other libraries, if they haven't done so, and if they're able to do so, to please do it, because it is, I found it to be very, very helpful.
So maybe we could move on to the next think slide. I think we've covered quite a bit about the marketing, what it is, at least what it is for this course. I'm here. Is that me feedback?
Nope, that was just somebody else's background noise.
Okay. So this is important. We're still on this customer service marketing culture thing, but every place where a patron or a constituent, and especially a first-time user, connects with your library is really important that it be bright and an experience that's not distressing. I was shocked to read a long article about library anxiety in Ivy League colleges and what librarians are doing to overcome it. Thinking, who would ever have Ivy League anxiety, especially somebody who got into Harvard? But there is a subset of humans out there who, and I started talking to people I know and just all kinds of people about this. There are a lot of people who equate the library with staid, stolid, scary, mean teachers. Or, I mean, I'm using that as a sort of generic, but so it's doubly important when you're working hard to bring in a particular non-user group, for instance, that if they did call or walk in, that moment of connection is good and is welcoming. And I'm wondering how much, what all of you do in a practical way to ensure that. This also includes your telephone, by the way. People forget about the telephone.
And Renee says, I may wear glasses, but I'm not wearing my hair in a bun with sensible shoes.
I like that. That makes it cheerful. And you probably don't say, shh.
and this is Sandy, and it's so frustrating. There's still ads. I can't remember who is, with the librarian with the bun and everything. Man, that's been around so long. We got to get past it.
Pam, go ahead. And you just click on the little icon next to your name to unmute yourself.
When I first started at the library, my brother asked me if I was the head shusher. One thing I read on this slide yesterday when I was going through the videos about increasing your staff's knowledge of library services and enthusiasm, I don't know that there is anything else the staff can do to be better at what they do. I'm just circulation. But of the 4 of us that are behind the circulation desk, you couldn't ask for anybody to be more engaged with the patrons, and we are very, very fortunate. Other things on the slide as you go forward, yeah, we need some work, but this is an area that I think that we really shine. Our patrons are always giving us good feedback and good reviews for what we do.
That's terrific, and you're lucky. And it'd be good to think about that and what makes it work so well. So that when people consult you, yeah.
I think it's because this isn't a job for us. It's a calling. We all love what we do, and it shows in all of our attitudes about what we do. And I don't think you can train that. You have to be that.
You can create a culture that encourages that, though. I'll bet you that a newcomer coming into your library, a new staff member, would gradually come to see it as a calling, just because that's what's in the air.
So you're saying we rub off on them, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. And it's a little bit like leading by example, too. I mean, as one person said, staff that sees you going to conferences and reading and learning and talking about libraries and encouraging them to do it. So setting a good example is really important. I think it's wonderful when a director comes out, especially in a large library, comes out of his or her office and sits at the desk for a while and talks to some customers and walks around and sees where the problems are or the good things. I'm a great believer in walking around. Anything else on this? Again, staff on board, culture of knowledge and enthusiasm, general topic.
Elizabeth, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, hi everybody. I kind of lost my train of thought there listening to everyone, but something that we have done at our library that I think that has been really, really helpful to kind of make that first impression really good for people who physically walk in our door is that we've developed like an Artist of the Month program where we have a local artist come in and display their artwork right in our front area. And the feedback on that has just been fantastic. People love seeing the colors, the artwork, it changing every month. There's always something new, and it's always a local artist. So it's really catered to that community and open the door for people to discuss, oh, that's so pretty, or oh, that artist is a teacher locally, or, oh, well, I do a little bit of this kind of stuff at home. Maybe I could bring my artwork in. And it's been just overwhelmingly welcomed, and everyone is really happy to see it. It helps the people behind the front desk, to not just be talking about, oh, your book is a week late, or, answering general questions. And it really does open a line of communication between our patrons and the staff. It's a nice thing. I really enjoy doing that. So just another idea out there. I think that what I can do to possibly help marketing is being more connected with my staff directly. Because generally I work from home. I just do like social media and handle programming the television screens that run ads for our classes and stuff inside the library. So I'm not really hands-on with a lot of the staff, but I can see where I need to get in there and spend some more time with everybody individually.
If you were going to do a comprehensive marketing plan beyond the brief that you have, it would be important to start building the culture. But you may, if you're hired just to do particular things, it's a little I know it can be difficult.
Right, right.
But that's a very nice idea. I like the art. I like art. And in other communities, it might not be local artists. It might be some other way of showcasing something about the community regularly that would create conversation and beauty in the lobby. Anyone else?
This is Sandy, and I really like the idea of different things. Art certainly is a wonderful way to get people talking and being a part of the community. And that is such a different way. In my head, I was listening. I go to Subway a lot because my husband likes to eat Subway sandwiches. So every time you walk through the door, they say, "Welcome to Subway." It's like, do you? To me, it's artificial. I mean, provide me good service and make a good sandwich is really what I want. And I know drugstores, some do that, where you can tell it's just they push the button, somebody walks through the door. If you don't say welcome to Subway, then I'll jump on you. And that's so artificial. I think that's where the balance between real customer service and real marketing versus, a canned line.
Right. Phony baloney. Yeah.
Right.
Has anyone ever been to Waffle House? Anyway, Waffle House is a chain. I stop on the south on the highway when I'm driving long distance. And that's the one place where every time you walk in, somebody behind the counter will say, "Good morning," but it actually sounds real.
Oh, that they really
doesn't sound.
Yeah, interesting.
It sounds like they mean it. So I don't. It's probably because they're cooking at the same time.
Right. Well, totally a different thing. Since we just had Hermine come through Tallahassee, there was an article in the newspaper today that that is a way that they can tell how bad a storm is how many Waffle Houses are open or closed. If they're closed, they stay open 24/7. So they have a real culture of commitment to service.
That's great. Here it was not Waffle Houses, but IHOPs. But yeah. Margaret loves Waffle House. The point is really here, customer service and the experience that your users have, your longtime users, and particularly any new group that you're marketing to with an effort and a strategic effort. You want to be sure that once they get to the library or online with you, that their experience is a good one.
Sarah, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sarah Burris. I used to work in retail before I got into the libraries, and one of my managers mentioned that you welcome customers coming in as if you're welcoming them into your home. And so I've always taken that into library science as well, and I think that also makes each experience, it's focused on experience and having your customers have a positive experience to want to come back as well.
Right, and that's key, to not only come back, but come to value the library as a place where life is good, not a big, scary, creepy place where people are going to shush you. Do we want to move on to the next section, which was about beginning some of the actual marketing activities like research and goals and objectives?
Yeah, and I think these are the slides we've got at this point.
Oh,
Laura.
Okay, all right.
About that.
That's okay. Well, better luck next time. Thank you all, by the way. This is an experimental course format, so we're learning, and your feedback on just plain format would be quite welcomed, particularly if it's thoughtful and kind. But I don't want you. I don't want you to hold back either. I do want you all got the marketing. My sort of simple marketing cycle, where you start with setting goals and objectives and move on to research. And I moved through those first two parts very quickly on the third presentation. And I am interested in any comments on that and what some of you are doing or have done to create a marketing plan that has goals, and then does it align with your long-range plan or with local, county, or statewide initiatives as well. And what objectives, how are you setting your objectives? So if anybody would like to address what you're doing, that would be really great.
Lawrence, this is Gene. The main reason why I wanted to be involved with this and to learn from others is that my main marketing goal at this point is to reach, engage, and retain millennials. I keep reading in the newspapers they're taking over the world. They're leaving our boomers behind. So I need to find out, and they see the world differently. I've had 2 staff meetings just with the millennials, just to have a better understanding of what's important to them, how they communicate, and what their aspirations and so forth, to use that as a jumping point before we even got into the millennials in the community. And it's a different way to approach. I don't think you can use a vanilla ice cream approach across the board when you do marketing. Sometimes you do. But to reach a specific group, I think we need to, at least I think I need to, change my approach a little bit, to tailor-make it to that particular group. So that's what I'm trying to find out, is how do I reach those millennials, but not just reach them, how to keep them engaged, but and keep them involved with the library. And that necessarily doesn't bring them physically into the library. It could be just an online a relationship. So I just want to let you know this marketing plan is helping me to a certain extent, but I really want to hear if there is any millennials in the group here, how I can learn to be more responsive.
I'll throw it open to the group. There must be millennials. No hands up. Jean, I can say that there is a lot of information out there on marketing to millennials, and because they are the generation, first one to come along that's larger than us baby boomers, people are seeing them as a whole. Do you have a large segment of your service population in that age group?
It's starting to change. When I first got here, close to 17 years ago, it was primarily retirees from all the big states up north. But I've seen over the past few years a shift in who is in the community. There's still a retired community, but more and more millennials are popping up in different segments in churches and in community groups and coming into the library and so forth. And I don't think I'll be doing my job properly if I didn't address the people that are coming in here. Change my programs, change the collection, change the services, change the attitude, change the culture accordingly. So yes, I have started to see a shift in my community.
And this is Melissa.
How are you hiring?
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
And I
Melissa,
should say,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, Margaret says, Tony and I are millennials ourselves, and we have found the above methods to help insofar as appealing to millennials. And Margaret, you might want to expand a little bit about above methods. I'm assuming that's something that was earlier in the chat, but we've had a lot of chat. So, and then Renee says, don't worry about trying to get millennials now. Wait until we have kids, then we'll show up again at the library.
And this is Sandy. I'm on a rural library listserv with the national organization. And so they've had some discussions about dress codes and those kind of things. And one of the rural library directors actually says that she has blue hair. And that really has gotten a lot of attention and support from, wow, librarians, cool.
I mean, actually blue, not a blue hair.
and I
with a Tony's note here definitely talk to them when you see them. One of the most surreal things to observe is these conversations about engaging millennials. This group of only baby boomers and older having the conversations with each other, which is right. And Jean, your first step would be, don't change anything yet. Find some millennials and make friends with them and sit down and have a meal and talk about the library and find out what their current thinking and attitudes and experience and feelings around libraries is. And millennials aren't a voting bloc. They really are as various as all of us. In fact, I don't even like us, them so much, but it is a demographic group, and it's an important one.
Renee says we are not that scary.
These notes are great.
Elizabeth, you've got your hand up?
Actually, I was just going to say almost exactly what Renee said. I have a hard time placing people in groups like that. Millennials, they're not any different than anybody a little older or a little younger. We're just all people. I was brought on to the library specifically to deal with social media because we weren't engaging with people in that manner. And that's been about 2 years ago that I was brought on to do that. And I mean, in order to reach them, you have to go to where they are. And I'm not by any means a social media expert, but people are on Facebook, they are on Twitter, and you've got to go where they are in order to let them know what is going on. You kind of have to bend to that. I know with our library, I mean our board, I think everybody on our board is at least over 60. So they were very unfamiliar with how social media worked. A lot of them are very leery of using computers, and they're still trying to figure out how to use their smartphones, which I am too. But it's just you have to kind of get out of the mindset of this is the way that things work, and that's the way we've always been doing it, and we need to kind of learn not just technology, but what are people doing with their lives at this age? Are they out playing Pokemon? Are they, what exactly is it that we're trying to, if we want the people to come in, then we have to appeal to what their senses are and what their wants are and what their needs are.
And they're stressed about student loans or
there's
a lot.
Yeah. Definitely.
Look at what their stressors are and maybe think about how you could help address that even. I think that's important. I think it's, to just look at a group from afar and say, we need more of you guys in here, come, doesn't work nearly as well as going where they are and sitting down with them, whether it's virtually or really. I'm a great believer in some face-to-face sitting, but and again, this gets on to the other subject of that third presentation, which is market research. Looking at your community. If your community census shows that 15% of the population is millennials and 40% of the population is new retirees, let's say, then probably your marketing focus will be on the new retirees, but you're going to stay alert to the millennials. If your projections show that the millennial population is projected to grow rapidly over the next 10 years, this is the time to start thinking about it. Does that make sense? So, and research, there's a lot of different kinds of research, and there's very expensive surveys and market research things you can do and hire, but there's also a great deal to be learned, again, by listening and walking around and getting out of your office and out of your library and into the community. Go where the people are who you want to engage and find out about them. I can't say it strongly enough. What are they worried about? What excites them? Where are they buying their books? Are they reading books? Suvi was successful with Pokemon. Social media is social. That's right. It's relating back and forth. You're taking the words out of my mouth. I just recorded the second week yesterday.
And we've got about 5 minutes.
There are a lot of good ideas here. What?
We've got 5 minutes.
We have five minutes left?
Yep.
Okay. Let me ask this. This is a basic research question. What have you all done with basic census data that shows demographics and economics, income levels, and breaks down your community by important demographic factors? And how do you use that in marketing? I just want to emphasize that it really is a place to start. Just knowing how many in particular groups that there are, segmenting your audience is really important, and it starts with numbers and it moves on to things like talking to people. It's either formally with focus groups that are all planned or informally.
May I say something really quickly?
Please.
That's one of the things that we're having a challenge with, is trying to figure that out, because we have really great data. We have a recent survey where we surveyed users whose cards have expired and got some great information from them, and some even said they'd be willing to participate in focus groups. But the challenge for me is trying to take that to the next level and use that as far as marketing. We found out the library hours were a big deal for people, that they don't like our new library hours. That was the main problem we had. And then they were asking about services that we already provided that we realized they don't realize we have. People talked about wanting more classes and online stuff, and we do have access to those. So that's kind of where I am right now, trying to figure out how do we take all this great data and then use that in our marketing efforts.
Sounds like that one piece of data, they don't even know you've got it, is for online classes, let's say, could be your very first specific marketing objective. Increase use of online classes over the next 6 months by 50% or 10%. And then, okay, what groups might be likely to want those online classes? If you've got language learning, it might be seniors, new retirees who want to keep the mind agile. If you've got test prep, it's high school seniors getting ready to take the SATs. All of the depends on the class, and how do you narrow it down and narrow it down. How do you reach that particular group, and what do you tell them about that particular service? And I bet you will increase the use of those and knowledge about those services quickly with a very focused effort. And that's one of the points of doing the market research. Like that survey, that's very valuable. Hours are a problem, and no one knows about some of your online services. Well, jeepers.
Lauren,
there you go.
This is Melissa. I'm just going to jump in real quick. For those of you, it sounds like not everybody's using statistics. The demographics now function through the Florida Electronic Library is a wealth of information, and you guys can all go in there for free and use it. So go do that if you don't already have access to your own numbers.
Good tip. I didn't know that. Thanks, Melissa. I feel like there's so much to talk about, and I want to acknowledge at this point, I know that our time is kind of up, that this course covers an incredible amount of material in a very fast time. And our aim here has been to introduce you to concepts and ways of thinking about marketing, as well as begin to think about some practical things to do. And a lot of you are doing fabulous work out there. I can tell just by reading your chat quotes, your chat posts here. And I would encourage you to get to know each other too. Form an email group and call up each other and say, hey, what are you doing about this? Or I heard you did that. How did it work? So I thank you all for this, and I thank you for being guinea pigs in a new kind of course. And again, we welcome your feedback. email would be fine. For those of you who are on the slate for one-on-one technical assistance from me, I will be in touch next week about setting up the schedule for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Lawrence, and thanks for all of you for an informative session. We plan to have the PowerPoints up on our webpage, and I'll let you know when that happens. I'll also send out the resource list that Lawrence put together, and so you can start picking through, you know, and adding to your learning through that resource list. And this afternoon, I will also send the a copy of the chat with my follow-up to you, so that you've actually got that and all that good knowledge that was over here as you were typing in. We've got a lot of talent, and want to thank you very much. And I'll also be sending out the links to the recordings for our next week's session on Thursday.
Great. All right, see you all next week. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lawrence.
We'll stay on a little bit as people leave.
Okay, good. Yeah, that'd be nice to see what works.
Yeah. Is the recording off?